What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to Bourbon of the Week. My name's Chris. I'm going to be your host for today, and full disclosure, I had popped this, already reviewed it, and went into post to realize my head was halfway cut off in the video. So today we are re-reviewing Stagg 22B. This is thanks to a gentleman named Tom Burns. Tom is a patron of mine. Check out the Patreon link, that link in the description below. But we're going to try this one more time. I'm going to owe him a little bit more money because I'm going to drink a little bit more whiskey from him. But everybody knows before we get started on all of that, time for the traditional sip. Cheers, y'all. Maybe it'll do better this time. So here we go, ladies and gentlemen. As I mentioned, this is Stagg. This is 22B. It's 130 proof. You know how we do it around here. We start with price, taste, drinkability. Not in that order, actually. We start with drinkability first, which tells us how much ethanol kick is there compared to the proof. Now, make sure you stick around for the Bourbon Bomb of the Week because we're going to talk about why this is called 22B and not Batch 19, which some people are calling it. I have some facts. I have some theories. We're going to go over all of that in a little bit, but let's start with drinkability on this glass. How does this taste for 130 proof? I mean, listen, I have a little bit of experience with Stagg. I've had a Stagg 14, I've had a Stagg 15, and I've had a Stagg 17. All of those were juniors. This is my first without the junior on it, and I will say that all of them seem to drink pretty easy, but for right now, this one is standing out in my mind as the easier one to drink. At 130 proof, it's nothing to sneeze at. There's definitely a little bit of an ethanol kick behind this, but I was expecting a lot more of an ethanol kick. I would love to compare this to the other ones. I also have a sample of Stagg 12, which I've never gotten into yet because I kind of wanted more Stagg under my belt before I went back to what is considered some of their best stuff. So let's take another sip on this. Let's see what we think when it comes to drinkability for 130 proof. If I have the opportunity, I do want to try this against the other two Staggs that I have, and maybe I'll break out my sample of Stagg 12 at that point, but that's going to have to be a live stream because 4 Staggs in like 20, 30 minutes, that ain't going to happen for me. This, for 130 proof, very easy to drink. I've been drinking a lot of higher proof stuff, but I'm also working my way into some lower proof stuff as we get into the summer here. It's a lot easier to drink 80, 90 proof stuff during the summertime than it is to drink 125 and 130 proof stuff. That being said, let's give this a score. I'm going to go easily in the 9s on this. I'm going to say like a 9.16 when it comes to drinkability on this glass right here. And up next, as you may or may not know, that's going to get us into taste on this glass right here. And I often find myself saying, okay, this is a higher proof whiskey. There is an ethanol kick behind this, but does it make up for itself when it comes to the flavor profile? For this particular glass, though, I feel like I'm telling myself the opposite. I'm saying it is 130 proof. There's not a lot of ethanol kick. It sips very easy, almost crushable for 130 proof, but I feel like I'm almost looking for or hunting for the flavor profile on this. The flavors are very good, and we're going to get into those in a minute, but they seem quiet. They seem mute compared to what I'm used to when it comes to Stagg or Stagg Junior, whatever you're calling it these days. They seem like a little bit short of what I'm expecting when it comes to Stagg, but let's get into the actual flavor profiles and we'll give this a score when it comes to taste. I feel like this particular batch is more reminiscent, and if I'm remembering these batches correctly, of the 14 over the 17. I felt like the 17 was a little bit more oaky, a little bit more tannin, gave me a little bit more of those age notes, although these are usually between that 7 to 9 year range, but that 14 gave me a lot of sweetness, and that's what I'm kind of picking up on this. I get a very good cherry bomb on this. I get almost like a maple syrup when it comes to this, both in viscosity and in taste, and then I get a little bit of that rye spice, even though it's a low rye mash bill. You do get a little bit of spice with this before you get into that ethanol kick. Again, the flavors that are in this are very well done. They're very well balanced. They just seem a little bit quiet to me, and it seems like I have to hunt for them, which is not something I'm used to when it comes to Stagg. There is also an oak finish on this, which I don't usually love, but for this, it's less of like that American charred oak that you're getting and more of a sweet oak. It almost feels like a saturated oak, if that makes any sense. Like if you took a piece of oak and then waterlogged it and then put this particular whiskey in a barrel like that. It's much more sweet. It's much more easy to drink. Maybe brings out some floral notes. Again, a little bit of black pepper, but nothing heavy with that low rye mash bill. This is a very good flavor profile. I just wish it was a little bit more predominant, a little bit more in your face when it comes to 130 proof, but I feel like, again, we're playing that balance game between is it going to have a lot of proof and is it going to have a lot of taste. This one seems to be balancing right around in the middle. So because of that, we'll put our taste score right around that average mark as well. We say 7.0 if it's a very good flavor profile. It obviously has room to grow from there, but I will say we'll put this right about 7.55 when it comes to taste on this. I do think there's much better product out there coming from Stagg, but I don't know if there's much better product out there overall when it comes to an actual whiskey. So I will say 7.55 seems like a fair spot. Cheers. Listen, Tom, I'm sorry, but I had to pour a little bit more to get us through both price and our bourbon bomb of the week. But this bottle comes in at $70 MSRP, which if you ask me, if you can find this bottle at $70 MSRP, and we only use MSRP because it's not fair to go with the secondary value when we're reviewing a bottle. If you can find this bottle at $70 MSRP, there's really not much out there that's better than this at that price point. I mean, we're talking Elijah Craig barrel proof, Larceny barrel proof, if you like that kind of stuff. Even Booker's is running $90 to $100 in most markets. So at $70, what this is supposed to cost you, one of the best price points out there, which is why this is still going to get a great score when it comes to price, even with a little bit diminished of a flavor profile and still that great drinkability behind it. Let's take one more sip. We always like to keep it short and sweet when it comes to price. One sip, and then we'll go to score. I mean, let's think about what we're really getting here, right? We're getting Stagg name, we're getting Buffalo Trace, we're getting low rye mash bill, less than 10%, with the likes of George T. Stagg as well as E.H. Taylor. We're getting 7 to 9 years, we're getting 130 proof, all of that wrapped up in a $70 price tag. I can't hate it too much. If the taste was a little bit better on this, if you took this 130 proof drinkability and matched it with one of those taste profiles that I get out of the 17 or the 14 or maybe even the 12 that I haven't tried yet, I will say this would get a better score when it comes to price, but we like to keep it short and sweet. Let's say like 8.94 when it comes to price on this. But listen, while I add these scores up, let's send it over to this week's Bourbon Bomb of the Week and talk about why this is called 22B and not Batch 19 or even 22A. That's right, for this week's Bourbon Bomb of the Week, we're going to go back just a little bit. As you can see on this bottle right here, it's called Stagg, but if you go back to any of their previous bottles, before batch 18, they had a little junior on here, and it was called Stagg Junior. Now, why did they drop the junior? A lot of people have a lot of different theories. Basically, they dropped the junior the same year they got rid of George T. Stagg, the year of 2021, so a lot of people thought maybe they're just going to start bottling that as George T. Stagg, and they're going to drop all these age statements, and there was a whole conspiracy theory, but at the end of the day, after batch 17, they went from Stagg Junior to just Stagg. Now, my theory was it was batch 18, right? It was year 18. He finally grew up. He went through this little teenage complex and said, stop calling me Junior. My name's Stagg. But at the end of the day, they dropped the Stagg. So we had Stagg batch 17, then we had Stagg batch 18. Then Stagg batch 19 never really came out. Now, as you may or may not know, Stagg has a proof on it, and every batch had a different proof up until now with 22B. Every single one was different, so you could go online and look it up and say, I have 130.2 proof, so that means I have this particular batch. But when 22B came out, they finally repeated proofs, and we had two different batches at the same proof, batch 7 and batch 19, or 22B, which you're looking at here. So obviously they had to switch it up a little bit, and that brings us to 22B. But what could 22B stand for? Well, 22 obviously stands for 2022, and B means the second release, but that means 22A should have came out first, but yet we're starting to see 22A now in 2023. So how did this all happen? Well, I reached out to Buffalo Trace without hearing anything back, and they told me absolutely nothing. But the theory is there was basically a distribution issue. They released 22B before 22A, and going forward, it's going to be 23A, 23B, 24A, 24B, and we're going to have two batches every year with these particular numbers and these letters on them, and that's how it's going to go from now on. So if you were as confused as I am seeing 22B before 22A, trust me, it just seems like a little bit of a hiccup coming out of Buffalo Trace, which I know we don't expect too often. But let's send it back over and see how this bottle scored on our ranking sheet. Cheers, y'all. So this particular bottle does come in at an 8.55, which does currently sit atop our list right above the Innkeeper's Blend from 2.0 and Dixon Deadman. That being said, I did look up my old Stagg Junior reviews from the 15, the 17, and the 14, and it did fall short. Those are all around 9.17, somewhere in that range. So I will say drinkability is still fantastic on this, but that taste profile seems to be lacking. I hope that's something they pick up going in the future, but an 8.55 is still a fantastic spot for a $70 bottle of whiskey. But listen, if you've made it this far in the video, make sure you click that like and that subscribe button. I would greatly appreciate it. Check us out on Instagram at Bourbon of the Week. Go click that follow button over there. We have a Patreon page as well as a Discord where you can come chat 24/7. Check those links in the description below. Thank you, Tom, for this particular bottle right here. I appreciate you for sending this to me. We will get it back to you, hopefully in one piece, well, with at least half the bottle left. In the meantime, though, please don't drink and drive. Always drink responsibly and stay healthy, stay happy, stay drinking. Cheers, y'all. And check out our TikTok if you want.